Everyone. I am going to be talking to author Anna Quinn, and I am very excited about this because we're going to be talking about her debut novel called The Night Child. And you know what? I've been thinking about this book all day because I don't know how to talk to her about this book. It's going to be a very interesting conversation. I mean, we can talk about her writing and how awesome she is and how awesome the book is, but there are this book has so many levels, and I don't want to call it a thriller because I don't think it's a thriller. It's just as I read it and as the story unfolded for me, I just don't want to ruin that for you guys. So we're going to chat with her about her writing, but we're not going to give you any spoilers at all. Okay, so everyone, here is Anna. Hi, everyone. I am so excited because I'm speaking with author Anna Quinn, and we're going to be talking about her book, which I think is a debut novel for her, right?
Yes, it is.
It is, and it's called The Night Child, and she has it right there, and she's going to show us a picture of this cover.
Okay.
I don't know, Anna. Like, when people talk to you about this book, are they just kind of like, I don't know what to say? Like, it was so good. It was really good. But it's like, when I'm talking about, do you see the lightning, everybody? I'm having like this tremendous thunder. So it's not me just like shocked. It's like I'm getting lightning near me because I'm facing
Yeah.
windows. But the story is so good, but it's so intense. I have
Mhm.
never read such an intense book, and I don't do spoilers. So all day in my head, I'm like, okay, so I feel like everything's a spoiler. I don't
It,
know.
it is that is a difficult aspect of it for sure. I find that when I'm on a book tour, when I'm trying to decide what to read, there's very little I can read without it raveling into the whole rest of the story. But I understand that.
Yeah, because the main part of the story, I even find on some of the reviews, this book came out in January, for everybody, just so you know, you can get it. The link's going to be below. Um, you, I was so blown away by it that I was like, I don't want to talk about that because it's going to give it away for other people to experience it the way I did. So,
Mhm.
there's usually like at some point that you can like talk about it, but I feel like as it's on her story, as Nora's story is unraveling, there's no real point that you're like, oh, okay, well, we can talk about it up until this point. But but we can say who Nora is. And I have a granddaughter named Nora, so I just wanted to
Wow,
tell you that, I love that name. So,
I do too. I do too. Yeah.
and I loved her. I loved
Oh,
her so much. I mean, you know, I was on
oh,
that journey with her, just every step of the way. So,
oh, thank you
she's
for
so
saying that. Thank
yeah,
you.
she's so endearing. And um okay, so you know what I'd like you to read is the first paragraph.
The first paragraph.
Yes,
Okay.
because I love how it starts, because thrillers usually start off really, awesome because they tell you things. And I thought your first paragraph, like, it explains so much about the family dynamic.
Yeah, okay. It's interesting. When I submitted this, it wasn't as a thriller, and I still don't see it that way. The publishers,
No.
they had psychological fiction thriller, and then on Goodreads, people can put their own what
Yeah.
they think it should be. So it was a surprise to me to have it be called that. And I know, I think it's because of the pace, and but it's not a traditional thriller, that's for sure.
No. No,
It's
it's
just it's
not.
a different kind. I'm not quite sure what it is
I
really.
you know what I think that they call them is like domestic or
Yeah.
something, like I I didn't think of it that way either, because it's not your typical
Okay.
thriller. Like, you're like,
Yeah.
oh my god, who did it, or something like that. It's more like the way her story unravels, that
Yeah.
it's
Right.
like you don't want to, like I said, I don't like talking spoilers, so it's like I think that people were trying not to talk about because those Goodreads, those reviewers do try not to talk about a lot. I mean, some of them do giveaways, but
Me
I see
too.
that a
Yeah.
lot of them, really try to give it a very fair, so I think
Yeah.
that when they said thriller, like they were just saying, because it's like, because you're sitting on the edge of your seat, but
Mm.
not because someone, not because of your normal thriller, but it's just like you paste it in a way that you're like rooting for her. Rooting for her, rooting for her so much that you're just like, come on, Nora, you can do this,
Yeah.
That's what I found myself
I think
doing.
Eventually they put it into psychological fiction.
Yeah.
Kind of just left it at that. But it is kind of a blurry genre.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and she just goes through, I think that with her life and her family, that's why I wanted you to read the first paragraph, because more importantly, it's a domestic, because it's about her family. And, we've all been, I'm 53, I've been in a lot of family situations. So it's like we all understand that husband-wife dynamic. And that's what I got from that first paragraph. I was like, so go ahead, read it and we'll talk about it. Okay.
Nora glances at the clock above the classroom door. 13 minutes until she will retreat with her husband and daughter to the Washington coast. Every Thanksgiving since she and Paul have been married, 15 years now, they've rented a room at the Claylock Lodge, a 1930s inn standing on a bluff above the rocky shore. Though it's only a few hours from Seattle, it feels as if they're visiting a distant relative, and it's better than sitting together alone in the city.
Right. And then what hit me when I read that, and then I went back and reread it, but I remember, sometimes I don't remember a first paragraph and I go back, but I really remembered that because you used the word alone.
Oh,
in a couple. You know what I mean? So right then I'm like, alone. That doesn't, usually couples want to be alone. But to hear her to describe them as like it's better than being, I was like, okay, so something's going on. You're alluding to it already of what some things to come with her and Paul. But but we can tell people. I mean, she's a teacher, and the way you used fiction throughout this book. She's an English teacher. She's an English AP teacher, and because I love books and I love it. Like, I really enjoyed that part of the story of how you wove that into it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I enjoyed it too. I was an English teacher forever.
Were you? I wanted to ask you that, if you were an English teacher. I was like, of course you was.
I had a couple of my students show up at different bookstores when I'm reading, and it's wonderful because they remember that I was just starting to work on this book. When I had them in the classroom, and they picked up parts of it. Like, they remember some of the scene in The Tempest that's in the book, and I go, oh, was that us? Was that, and so that part, the English teacher part, came to me more easily because I was familiar with it.
I had a deja vu moment reading about her classroom and things that went on in her classroom. And we, now I'm 53, so I was in school in the early 80s. I was in high school in the early 80s. And we were required to write in a notebook a diary. We could write whatever we wanted, just like her, right? So it was part of our requirement as a senior. We could write whatever we wanted, right? And I guess it was like 10 minutes at the end of class, right? It was just a short amount of time. And, it was just like what you, wrote. Well, and then she'd collect them. She was the cutest little woman. And Mrs. Wilson, she'd collect them and she'd put them in a closet. And she'd always say, now you can write whatever you want. No one is going to read these.
Wonderful. That's
right?
Great. Yeah.
Okay, so I was like, okay, so I was pregnant in high school. Okay? And nobody knew. I mean, I ended up having an abortion, but, that's my story. But anyway, so I wrote about my that I was pregnant. Nobody knew. My parents didn't know. My boyfriend was in high school, and of course, and it was a small high school. Everybody knew each other, but I just wrote, right? Well, one day walking out of class, Mrs. Wilson comes up to me and says, if you ever need to talk to anybody, I'm here. And I just kind of looked at it. I was like, okay, I know. But now I look back and I'm like, Mrs. Wilson read my
Did you have to turn them in, or did she? Oh, so yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, that was a lot of Nora's. She had a lot of guilt about not be able to help Elizabeth more in the book because she had, as you saw, read some of her free rights and was not sure how to deal with her Elizabeth's privacy and helping her. And it was all it was just such a blurry line at the time.
Yeah, and so it brought
Um,
back, like, I've forgotten about it. So when I was reading that,
yeah.
I was like, but I don't know that Nora was collecting them. So I guess she was I don't know. I don't remember if she was
No,
collecting.
she didn't collect them. Elizabeth would rip them out and throw them
Throw them
away
away.
before she left
Right.
class. Yeah. And
Right.
so
So
she
that.
that there was a couple times when Nora took them out of the garbage can because she
Yeah.
was so worried about Elizabeth.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that too. I do think that I probably projected that I was having, you know what I mean? Like, I think
Yeah,
I was
for
acting
sure.
normal, but I'm sure I projected that teachers pick up on, like,
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
so I don't know if she read it or not, but I'm assuming, I think she read it.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe she sensed that about you, though. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. But as
That's,
I
that's
just thought it was
cool.
interesting. Yeah, that we
Yeah.
turned him into this closet, and she'd always say, "Now nobody's going in the closet. You can write
Oh.
whatever you want."
Oh.
But you know what? If I were an adult and I thought there was something going on with a student, of course, like, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Nora's interest in what was going on. I mean, that's just typical because we get protective, as
Yes.
adults. And she started getting very protective of her. But
Yes. Right. Not quite knowing what had happened. She had not yet remembered what had happened to her.
right.
So I think we do find each other.
Yes.
Whatever your story is, I think you find people with those similar stories. You just find each other in life, it seems like. And
Right.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I love that part about, the book, and I loved how you, put the English in there and everything. But you've been writing for a long time. I mean, this is a debut novel, but you've been writing for a long
I
time.
have. Yeah, I have been writing a long time. I feel like I've always been writing since I think I've said in a couple essays that my mother taught me to write when I was 4, and she knew that we were in a difficult situation in our home, and she kind of had this sense that the pen would give me some power, as would books, reading and writing. So that was really important to her. And so as soon as I discovered that you could write your own stories and write yourself into the story you wanted to be into, which my mother was always saying, it was a tremendous amount of freedom. And I just kind of hid in my closet and wrote things and wrote in my fort. And I'm very grateful that she gave me that gift. But yeah, so I wrote all the way, from then on. But I wrote privately. I didn't submit anything. I didn't submit any fiction until this book. I wrote for education magazines, and I wrote anything that had to do with teaching and safe things. I wrote a lot of safe things.
Right.
But this story, I felt like I really wanted to submit and publish it.
Have you, now that it's been out a little bit and you've been doing the book tour and everything, I mean, are people really grateful to you for this story? Like, do you find a lot of people very grateful to have written for, because I think you would.
Oh, it's really been rewarding. I was so nervous in the beginning because I didn't know how people would respond, and I'm not really spoken about the subject out loud. And we can say that one of the threads is childhood sexual abuse and dissociation. It's just one of the threads,
right?
But I hadn't really spoken out loud about it. So the first couple of readings, I was really nervous, and people were so wonderful. They just responded so warmly, and they had great questions and curiosity, and there were a lot of stories that they had to tell too. And I received a lot of emails where people telling their stories, and it's really meaningful to me.
I know, because I was reading some of the reviews on Goodreads and Amazon, and I felt like they were so fair about it, like wanting to tell people, like I said, without doing too much giveaway, they were very fair about, and grateful. And I was like, you know what, I bet, that's why thriller is such a, like you said, it's like, it makes it sound darker than what it is in a, you know what I mean? It's not, but it's not that dark, but it's like, but it's her story, and it's real. And
mm,
I thought that you probably opened that subject up for a lot of women. And it's,
mm, mm.
now, right now is, the timing of it couldn't be more perfect.
Yeah, that was really the timing, the synchronicity is just has been really kind of stunning because when I first submitted it and Blackstone took it, that was almost 2 years ago. It takes that long, well,
Right.
maybe a year and a half, just to go through the whole process of editing and the cover and everything that has to happen for it to become the hardback. So when they took it, Me Too wasn't a giant
Right.
movement, and then when it came out, it blended right in the middle of this movement, which I'm grateful for the story, but I'm also grateful that people seem so much they're more open now to having these conversations that are really difficult,
Yeah.
and I'm glad. I hope that the Night Child can become part of the conversation and offer something of value.
Yeah, I mean that's why I thought, the when you made Nora so endearing, like you did, I felt like a lot of people were going to be able to, really latch onto her as a
Hmm.
character. You did such great character development with her, and
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So okay, so this was the debut one. Like, is there something else in the works coming out?
I am working on another one. I'm supposed to have a draft to my agent by August, but that is not going to happen.
No.
I I haven't been writing since the book came out in January. Usually, I dedicate Mondays and Tuesdays completely all day long into late into the night to writing, and I've never really broken that. But during this tour, I have not been able to concentrate
Yeah.
at all on the second. I have not, and I'm craving it. I'm really hungry to go back to writing, and I feel like now things are calming down a little bit, and I'll
Yeah.
starting in June. But I hope to have something done by September or October. But it's going much more quickly than the Night Child did, that's for sure. And uh, it's absorbing to me. It's fun, and but it still has similar issues of identity and memory and feminism and patriarchy.
Mm.
That's still Those are still very strong threads in the next book, probably stronger than even in the Night Child. But it involves seven different women, so it's interesting to me to write.
Yeah, I love the title, and I had read somewhere that that wasn't the original title, but I love the title. I mean, I'm really
The
happy that
Night,
that's what, yeah, that you settled on that title because I
yeah, I
yeah.
am glad too. It was originally Split. It was called
Mhm.
Split, and that obviously her split consciousness and the
Yeah.
split in the marriage, and there were lots of splits, and we all have splittings. And I thought, oh, that fits the themes of this book really well. But then the movie came out, and with similar themes of dissociation, and I felt like it did. It was so sensationalized, and it did really a disservice to people that suffer with dissociative identity disorder. That my son called me and said, "Mom, did you see that there's a movie that just came out and it's getting all these reviews?" And I was just, "Oh no!" So I called the publisher, and they just had seen it too. And I asked if we could change the title, and they agreed. And then I thought, well, what
I'm
will the
so
title
happy
be
you
now?
did. I'm so happy you did because really I feel like Night Child really encaptures it more.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I agree. It came to me at night, and oh yeah, I love that, and
Yeah.
I love cover where she's going into the woods because it feels like it's innocence at risk,
Yeah.
And she only came at night, so it was. No, I'm really happy that happened.
Yeah, me too. I love that. Well,
Oh,
I
thank
mean,
you.
yeah, I was like texting all my reviewers as I was reading it. I have a lot of book reviewers on Instagram that are friends, and we talk about the different books, and they had suggested this one. That's how I found you. And so when you
Oh,
said yes, I was like so happy, but I'm like, "Oh my gosh, so you guys read this?" And they're like, "Yes." I'm like, "Oh my gosh." I'm like, I'm
I
talking to Anna this
know.
afternoon. I have to talk about this book. And they were like, "Yay." So
I know. I know it's hard. I know it's a funny one to talk about, and it's really interesting because now I'm getting more book club requests,
oh,
and I love talking
nice.
book clubs. Everybody's read it. A lot of people on the
Right.
tour are just now getting it, so the
Right.
questions are different. But the book club questions they're just diving into it, and it's a relief to me because I was worried. I thought, what are we going to talk about? How will that what just it's it's just been really, I'm grateful to everybody who's reading it. And
Yeah, and that's the disadvantage I have is this is not a book club, but I also
yeah,
have the advantage because I can
you're
tell
great.
everybody like read it, and I never want to give away anything, so I'm always like, I swear this book is the hardest because like I said, I have talked to many authors who've written thrillers. This is not a thriller. It's like it like keeps opening. It's like layers of opening. And I don't want to reveal because I loved reading it. I loved being in that person that didn't, that's why I don't read the reviews ahead of time. I don't read anything ahead of time. I want to read it like I
Thank
know
you. Yeah.
nothing, you know?
Yeah, me too. Me
Yeah.
too. I'm the same way. I like to first bring it into myself and know it just for myself without any other influences. I appreciate you doing that.
Yes. I
Uh,
always,
yeah.
I don't want to get jaded. So I just like read it on my own and then I go and look at, and I'm like, oh yeah, I thought that too. Like, but I don't want them to tell me ahead of time how I'm going to think. So,
Yeah, because it does kind of seep in a little bit,
oh,
if
it
you read it ahead
does.
of time.
Definitely.
Yeah. It's hard
Definitely.
enough doing the synopsis for the book cover, and I still feel like it doesn't. The one that I have isn't quite right, and I want to work on that for the paperback. But it's just so hard to know how to say it exactly. I should know,
But
but
you know what? It's such a testament to how you wrote this because that's what I was trying to say is like because it has that many layers and you're with I feel like you're with her on her journey. You know what I mean? And that's like to me it's like that's why it was such an amazing book is because, even though we can't talk a lot about it except go read it, it's because it's like that. And, usually I can talk about half the book before there's ever anything. And that's just not the case. That's just not the case here, except for to just love her and love her
oh,
story. And as a woman, you're going to find so many different things in this that you're going to relate to. If you don't relate to one thing of hers, there are so many issues she's going through and, you'll relate to something. And that's another thing that's just awesome about it.
yeah, it's been interesting for me to hear what different people pick up from it, and different struggles that I hadn't really noticed as much. Things between Paul and Nora, James. A lot of people had questions about James, and I
Yeah.
didn't. I'm so grateful they noticed because I spent. It took me a long time to write this book, so it's wonderful when people pick up on those threads that I hadn't even myself maybe saw at the level that they were able to take in, and
Yeah.
it's been fascinating.
Right, and probably because I am divorced, and that's why when that first paragraph, I was just like,
Hmm.
only because you've been there and you're like, that doesn't
Yeah,
seem right, But
we know where this is
we
going.
know where this is going, and we just don't know how. But but I want you to show everybody that cover again because the cover is beautiful. They did such an amazing job with the cover, and it means so much after you read it that you go back and look at it again and again. And that's what I was doing on my Kindle. I kept looking at it again and again because I was like, yes, that's perfect. Perfect. Well, I am so happy that I got to meet you. I am so happy that this book is doing so well for you and that everybody's talking about it. And, I can't wait to read your next one. And you know where to find me because I'll read it early and then we could put it out like when it comes out.
Oh, thank you so much, Michelle. I
Yeah.
really enjoyed this. I love how deeply you read it, even though we couldn't talk about very much. I can tell that you did, and it's
Oh,
wonderful. And
you
I
can tell I
really
did because of,
appreciate it.
like the tearing up and the, all the hormones coming out. But
Thank you
yeah,
so much.
I was so happy when you said yes. So I'm just so grateful to have met you, and I can't wait to read your next one because maybe we can talk again about not talking about it.
Next one, I hope we can dive into more.
It's only because we want the reader to read it. That is all. I just want to put it out there that read this book, you will understand, and then you will thank us. So.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah. So anyway, like I said, all of her links will be listed. This book is out. The link will be there for Amazon. You just click on it. It'll take you right to the book. One click on Amazon. I use it all the time.
And I think it's 99 cents for the next 2 weeks on Kindle.
Ooh,
So if
that's good to
anybody
know.
reads on
Yes.
I know it's just a little bit, but I'm just happy to get it in more hands too. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. I love when you guys run sales on the Kindles because I'm always like eating those up. So anyway, well, you have a great day. I still have lightning coming at me. I see it on the screen. But the
Okay, well,
internet
stay
held
safe
out.
and thank you for everything you do.
Yeah.
The way you promote authors and reading and books is just, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. So we will talk again. Okay, Anna?
Yes, let's do.
Okay, bye
Okay,
bye. Have
bye,
a great
bye,
night.
everybody.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you.
Back. I hope you guys loved that interview. If you made it this far, you did because she was so sweet. And I think we had fun not talking about her book. I think we did. I really enjoyed her. And, she got why we couldn't talk a lot about it. And, she was really happy to just talk to me anyway, even though she knew there was only so much we could talk about. But guys, this book is it came out in January, and I cannot tell you enough. Like, you will love Nora's story. Okay, you will relate to some part of her story. And that's all I can say. So the link is below. And if you want to read an excellent book, go get this book.